Hey everybody, Sam here from Pick Up Goliath, here with the next part in this mixing walkthrough. So, now that we've got all of our editing done and all of our tuning done, we're ready to start making this mix sound really nice. Now, a couple of things that I've done before we're going to jump into this mix. I've created two new buses in my project. So all of my instruments, so my drums, my bass and my guitar track stacks, I've taken their output, and where they were going to my mix bus, I've now routed them into this new bus, bus 30, which I've called my instrument bus right here, bus 30, and I've sent that to my mix bus. My vocal track stacks, I've routed them into bus 31, which is now labelled as my vocal bus, my Vox bus, and that is also going to my mix bus here. Why I want that is going to become apparent in due course down the line. Now, we're ready to start mixing this project, right? What most people would do, or I guess most amateurs would start doing, is they start going, right, I need to dive in, I need to pull up my kick drum, I need to chuck on some EQ, I need to chuck on some compression. How do I make that kick drum sound really nice? That, for me, is the wrong approach. And I know, people say there are no rights and wrongs in mixing, but there are things that work better and things that work not so well. And to me, mixing is all about the big picture, right? Everything that you do should be about what things sound like in the mix. What something sounds like in isolation is irrelevant because you're never going to hear it in isolation. So you should be always thinking about big picture mix decisions. What do things sound like in context? And in order to achieve that properly, I advise you taking what's called a top-down mixing approach. Now, loads of big hotshot producers talk about this approach as being a really good one, a really solid one. I really like it because it forces you to take that big picture approach to begin with. So I'm going to start balancing this mix. And actually what I've done is I've done this all in advance to save me sitting there and fiddling around with it for ages. But I'll take you through all of my decisions and let you hear everything that I did in turn. So you'll hear my whole process. It just won't be as slow and tedious, right? So I started with my drums. And the thing that is most important to me in my drum kit is my room stereo pair, because that is what the whole drum kit sounds like. The whole drum kit doesn't sound like the kick drum in isolation or the snare top in isolation. It sounds like the room drums because that is the big picture sound. So I'm going to leave that at unity gain, and then I'm going to bring in the other elements into that mix. So here's that the drum stereo pair. Okay, and I'm going to use that as my starting point because that is my balanced drum performance. So I'm going to blend into that the room mono. Cool, so that's adding that kind of crush drum feel, giving me a lot more, I guess, energy in the high end. And then into that, I'm going to blend in my overheads as well. And those overheads are giving me more width, so I'm getting more of the kind of stereo effect of that drum kit, which is sounding really nice. And that, straight away, is a balanced drum kit sound. Yeah, I can hear everything in those parts. I can hear kick, snare, tom, and cymbals. So, I could just use that. But I've got these other mics that I can now use to kind of supplement and just enhance these things. So I've got the kick and the kick sub that I can use to just support that kick drum a little bit. So let's bring those things in. Nice. And then I'll bring in the snare top and the snare bottom as well. Cool. So, you know, really nice, balanced kit sound. And I've just got this one tom to work back into the mix. Now, it's a floor tom. Now, with your toms, it's important that you identify where that tom was positioned on the drum kit in the stereo field. So to do that, I can just take a listen to my stereo drum mics, again, or even my overheads. And I'm listening for where is that drum positioned between the left and the right. There. It's on the right. Ba ba bomb. Let's just check that with the overheads. Yeah. So I need to make sure that I've panned that tom in the same position as it is in those stereo mics. And I've gone 45 to the right. It's a floor tom, so it can be quite wide out. And then I've just blended that back in the mix. Beautiful. And there we go. Balanced drum kit sound with a top-down approach. I haven't gone, right, let's start tweaking the kick loads, let's start tweaking the snare loads. I've gone, no, what's the big picture sound? The drums, stereo mics, and let's work the other elements back into that big picture sound. Beautiful. So, drums, they're up, they're running, they're ready to go. Now I'm going to balance the bass with that. I'm going to work the bass guitar into the mix. Now, I learned a great tip for this. I can't remember where I learned it now, but I'm very thankful that I did because I use it all the time. And the tip is this. Solo out your kick drum. On your instrument bus, bring up a VU meter, right? Now, this one is a great VU meter and it's free. It's from TB Pro Audio, so you can go and grab this one for free. Or you can get a paid one from Waves or whoever, but I really like this one and it's free and you can change the skin to, you know, go with a cool retro look or whatever you like. And then what you're looking to achieve here is to trim in the kick drum using the trim on the VU meter so that the kick is bouncing around -3 dB. Okay, so I've already done that trim, so I'm going to let this track play and I'll take it off bypass and you'll see that the kick drum is around about -3 dB. Now, obviously, there's a lot of dynamic variety, a lot of dynamic range in this performance, which is totally cool. Dynamic range is absolutely fine, but in general, we're hitting around this -3 dB mark. Now, when I bring the bass guitar in context with that, I want that the two things, when they strike together, are going to be around about the 0 dB mark. Obviously, I've already trimmed that in, but that's what we're looking to achieve. So let's bring the bass guitar in and hopefully we're going to start hitting around this 0 dB mark. Beautiful. There you go. So I'm hovering around this 0 dB mark. Clearly, as I said, there's dynamic variety in the performance, so things are uneven, so it's moving. I'll be able to smooth some of that out with compression down the line, but that's sounding great. Then when I bring the rest of the drum kit in, and I know the drum kit's already balanced, now that my kick and bass is balanced, they should sound great together. Let me take off the VU meter, otherwise it's going to be screaming loud. That to me is super balanced. I can hear everything in those elements really clearly. The kick is there, the snare is there. I can hear all the drum kit parts and the bass is nicely kind of level. So there we go. Drums are in. Bass is in. Next, I'm going to bring in my lead vocal because that is, the most important part of this track. The crux of the rhythm section is balanced. Now I'm going to bring in the lead vocal. Now I've got the lead vocal and I've got this double track. I'm not going to pan the double track. I'm going to leave it straight down the centre so it's sort of supporting and right behind that lead vocal. If I had a double track and a triple track, I might pan those a bit left and right, or even a bit more left and right, because I could still make it sound sort of balanced down the centre. But because I've just got a lead and a double, I'll leave the double centred too, and I'm going to bring that in underneath the lead vocal. So let's bring the lead vocal in.
And I know you couldn't tell the truth to
And the double.
save your soul. And I know you will lead to my demise, but I just ignore all the signs, and I'm not.
Cool. So the lead vocal is clearly there sitting on top. That double track is not there to be obviously heard. I don't want it to sound like two voices. I just want that double track is there to support that lead vocal. For it to sound like two voices would be weird, and then I get lots of weird sort of almost like chorusing going on, which I don't want. I just want them to be nicely balanced and that double track to support the lead vocal. Great, so my lead vocals are there. They're kind of balanced. Then I'm going to bring in these two BVs. Now I've got a male BV and a female BV, and I have panned these a little bit off centre. The male I've gone a little bit to the left and the female a little bit to the right, just to separate them a bit from the lead vocal so that I know that they're clearly not the lead vocal. And again, I've just brought them in to taste so that I can hear them, but they're not overtaking that lead vocal. Here you go.
And I know you couldn't tell the truth to save your soul. And I know you will lead to my demise, but I just ignore all the signs.
Great, I can hear those really clearly, really nicely balanced with that lead vocal, which just leaves me my guitars to work in. And as you can see all the time, we're thinking about big picture, top down. Can I hear the most important elements? Can I hear my kick? Can I hear my bass? Can I hear my snare? Can I hear my lead vocal? All the time thinking about the hierarchy of this mix and what's important. Now, with these guitars, what I found was that I actually had a bunch of tracks that I didn't need. So I had these 4 DI tracks, which are literally just the guitar signal clean, which I could use if I wanted to reamp these guitars or do anything sort of fancy with them. But I don't want them, I don't need them for this purpose, for this mix. So what I've done is I've just muted them and I've hidden them. So you can press H to bring up your hide menu and then toggle the hide on any tracks that you don't want to see in your mix, but don't want to delete in case you want them later on. And then just H again and they'll disappear from your mix. Now what I've found is that I've got effectively 4 rhythm guitar channels and 4 lead guitar channels. So I've relabeled them as rhythm 1 and rhythm 2 left and rhythm 1 and rhythm 2 right. 1 and 2 being the 2 different microphones that are used on the guitar amp to record, and same with lead. I've got lead 1 left and lead 2 left, which is the 2 different microphones of that recording, and likewise lead 1 right and 2 right. Okay? Then I've just balanced those different microphones to taste how I like them. To me, I like the sound of the first microphone on the rhythm a bit more than the second microphone. Have a listen for yourself. I like to hear more of that than I did of the second mic. Just found that first mic has got a bit more body. It's a little bit less fizzy. So I went for that balance. You'll see that I've panned mic 1 hard left and right, so it's all the way out, and then mic 2 I've panned almost hard, but bringing in a little, so there's a little bit of crossover in the centre of my mix. What this does is a couple of things. Firstly, it gives me width to my sound because I'm using the full kind of space in my stereo field. but also it's going to have the added benefit of being out of the way of my lead vocal. If I left those guitars down the centre, and let's do this experiment, right? Here's the guitars down the centre. Let's add the lead vocal into that.
It's tell the truth to save your soul.
Now let's pan the guitars.
I know you will lead to my demise, but I just ignore all the signs, and I'm not gonna wait for.
It just gets it out of the way of that vocal, and I can hear that vocal coming through the mix now. You know, the guitars and the vocals share a lot of similar frequency content, right? So if you have them panned in the same place in your mix, they're going to be fighting. They're going to be having this battle, competing for space in the mix. We can use the stereo feel to get things out of the way of each other a bit, which is exactly what I've done here. Similarly with the lead guitar, I've chosen the balance that I like. With these microphones, I've gone with a bit more of mic 2 on my lead guitar over mic 1. I wanted a bit more of the lead sound coming through, and it's a less thick part because it's kind of single notes. And again, I've panned it, but I've not gone as wide with this. I'm kind of halfway left and right. Here's the lead. With the rhythm. So I've not got loads and loads of gain on this track. It's not like really heavy. It's not riffy. And then I'm just going to balance that in context with the rest of the mix.
And I know good is tell the truth to save your soul. And I know you will lead to my demise, but I just ignore all the signs, and I'm not gonna wait for.
And there we go. We've got a really balanced starting point for our mix. We've made sure that we're focusing on the most important elements. So we've got our drums sounding really nicely balanced. We've got our vocals sitting on top of that. We've got the low end in context with the kick and bass working nicely together. We've supplemented in those backing vocals and then the guitars, making sure that they're not overpowering that vocal, which is awesome, right? And this is the place where you should be, working from a balanced mix, because everything we do from this point onwards is going to enhance this balanced mix. Now we can start going in and saying, right, what do I need to do with the kick drum to make it sound better? What do I need to do to that lead vocal to make it sound better? But all the time, I'm thinking about making those decisions from the position where things are balanced already. I have a mix that works and is functional. How can I now make improvements to this mix? And that's what we're going to be looking at in the next session. So do me a favour, hit that like button, hit the follow button, subscribe so that you know when the next part comes out. And I'll be back with part, whatever it is, 5 in the next couple of days or so. See you soon.